Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special city council meeting for Monday, the 18th, 2017. And I'd like to call since Kathy isn't here, she had an eye appointment to go to the eye doctor, I should say. So
She couldn't
won't
see
be there.
herself being here?
Right,
Is that the eye
right,
problem?
yeah, so, thank you. The ayes have it. Okay, let's go in court order, and I will call the roll. Mayor Troutman here, Mr. Ekstrom,
Here.
Mr. Gill,
Here?
Ms. Jaquez,
Here.
Mr. Meisner,
Here.
Ms. Schumacher,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Weed.
Here.
Okay, thank you. So this afternoon, this is a second reading for an ordinance. It is ordinance number 45, series 2017. It's an ordinance amending the water rate schedule. And I will read the title. It's an ordinance amending certain water rate schedules set forth in the city's water code relative to water service provided by the Canyon City Water Department, a water activity enterprise. I would need a motion and a second from council.
Before we get that far, were we going to discuss municipal and golf course rates, or?
I
were we
think that's
going-
after the first of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Can somebody correct me?
At least the golf rates will be in January.
So that conversation will take place in January? Okay.
That was my
Do you have
understanding.
some input?
Well, why don't we go ahead and do a motion in a second, then let's have a discussion. Would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah. Can I
Okay.
make a motion?
Would you please?
This is my last chance.
It is.
Mayor, members of council, make the motion to approve ordinance number 45, series of 2017 on second reading.
Second.
Second by Schumacher. Now, is there any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, but and obviously, well, I think we should probably give some additional thought to what we're going to do with the golf course water rates, and probably the city, what the city pays as well. I mean, it's, to me, it's, well, first we'll talk about the city water rate, or what the city pays, and I'm not exactly sure, other than transferring money from the general fund to the water enterprise, which may be appropriate, but it's literally taking money out of one pocket and putting it in another. And the effect on the city budget would be what, about 90,000 next year?
We end up paying about 182,000,
Additional,
not additional. Additional would be about 94,000, 90,000.
yeah, so, I don't know.
Is that over a 3-year period that we're going to be
It'll be 3
incremented in?
times. It'll be about 200,000 more than that.
Yeah, so I think in the first year, the phase-in would increase it to 94,000,
Right.
and the next year it'd be double that, or eventually ending up somewhere in the 200s.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Is the city the largest user of water? Or is it the prison?
For parks, yes, not the largest users, but we have significant consumptions because of the park and cemetery.
Yes, okay.
Well, I don't know. The conversation will continue in January, and, you know, we had a pretty interesting conversation regarding the golf course water rates, and I'm not sorry about that. Let's make that go
I
away.
think that's for you, Dennis.
It's, so I'm not comfortable with giving away water, no charge, but on the other hand, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with raising the prices until we get a little bit more information from the developer, or, well, it's not even a developer, the investor, and see what the long-term future of the 4 Mile area is. I mean, obviously, it's, killing the golf course will kill that project for sure, so, but I don't know for sure that there's a project anyhow. We just have
So
somebody.
yeah, we'll
who-
find out more about that in January, it
right.
sounds
Is
like.
that's on for January 2nd or the 16th?
I believe 16,
The 16th?
January 16th.
yes.
Okay, and at that time, Mr. Weed, you would be there for the hearing?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. So.
Yeah, as far as the city water rates, I understand the philosophy, we're just taking it from general fund to water fund, but the water fund needs to be solvent. And with the added burden from 2A and the street projects, there's more of a need to to assure that as a city, we're making sure that their accounts are brought, at least to ground zero. It's not like this is a for-profit enterprise. In this instance, this is merely just providing the services at the basic costs and making sure that it can be solvent and it can deliver good water product to our citizens in the future.
Dennis, ultimately, your concern is, again, taking from one pot and putting it in another. And if we
Well-
raise the water rates for the city, as we have intended here,
Yeah.
it at least gives us an idea of, all right, this is what it's costing the general fund, and future councils can then say, okay, well, what can we do to save money in the parks? What can we do here?
And that's a
To-
a valid point to be a little bit more economically
Yeah.
aware
If
and
that eventually
efficient.
does become a concern,
Yeah.
at least it'll be on paper and it'll be,
Yeah,
you account
well,
for it.
and I guess maybe just tying this back into the golf course conversation we had, I kind of, golf course benefits, it's a public benefit, maybe it benefits a smaller portion of the public than the parks do, and maybe long-term, with the development of 4 Mile, there is a great public benefit, long-term. City parks, on the other hand, I think benefit more people, maybe in a more pedestrian sort of manner, but I think in general, it benefits everybody. And I guess my position is the city parks are more of a benefit to everybody, and I really don't want to see the city parks paying more for water than the golf course is paying for water.
Well, except the golf course plan is a very short-term plan, where city parks is something we need to address,
Yeah.
address in the long term.
Well-
It transitions out eventually after 3 years. That's sort of the proving time. He has discussed the possibility of 2 years, and actually we can look at 3, but there will be requirements that he will have to get done with, or at least get forward on. So,
So currently, Dennis, is that the case, just the way, without making any concessions to this ordinance, is that the case? Is the golf course paying less than the city parks?
No, they're not.
No, they're paying the same price.
They're paying, at least they're paying the same price, and then those concessions can be
And
later
then the
on.
concessions would effectively, for the first year, reduce the
Be-
golf
yeah,
course rate
right.
to
Yeah,
zero.
the ordinance would probably, I think, according to discussion, would just be amended, once that's made.
Or I actually think that no matter what, the water fund will be paid what it needs to be paid at these rates that we're gonna pass today, but potentially there could be
Right.
an investment made out of the economic development fund in the interest of future economic development of Canyon City. So the balance of what the water fund would have been for the golf course would come from the general fund, not the water.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean,
I-
I'm gonna just say, this is kind of a crazy thought, but this maybe would be a more long-term solution. And, because I said, have been on the county planning commission for quite a while, and one of the things that I saw had to do with water. And Penrose they got a new point of diversion, ran a water line from the Arkansas River to the Brush Hollow Reservoir, or I think it went to Brush Hollow Reservoir, and then they get their water from there for treatment. And the city has more than adequate water rights for quite a ways into the future. I mean, I could see a potential solution to this problem. And part of the problem is using treated water to water a golf course. You don't need treated water. As a matter of fact, the raw water is probably better for the golf course. I mean, I would just throw it out there as a possibility of get a new point of diversion, run a raw water line from the Arkansas River to the golf course. It's not that far. I mean, it's certainly not a cheap solution, but if you're looking at the economic cost over 20 years or 50 years, which I would expect the golf course would still be here in 50 years, that's probably a viable economic solution. But it's not a quick solution. You know, it takes forever to get to work your way through the water court, get a new point of diversion, and it's not cheap to build a water line, but that may be some kind of something that.
Bob, didn't you mention that at one point 4 Mile did have raw water?
It's my understanding that the owners of 4 Mile own the Wofford Ditch rights. And what that looks like as far as yield, I'm not sure. I do know that there would be infrastructure requirement to get that water out of 4 Mile Creek and to the golf course. So there is an option there. Of course, that would all be on them at their cost to
Right.
bring that water right in.
Thank you.
And that's a right, that's just not shares. The Wofford
Correct.
Ditch is a right, so they could move that, probably. Okay. That would be easy to ascertain, who owns what in that ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we talked about, and I did not see it here, that it would be brought back to council every 2 years or every year, because what has happened before, it has gone so long, and then all of a sudden now we gotta play catch-up. And I believe it would be appropriate, I don't necessarily want it in the ordinance, but we should have a council agreement that it will be put on our agenda for 2020 to look at them again. Would that be fair?
I think so. Just, if I may.
Yes.
Typically, how often are municipalities adjusting their water rates?
We typically recommend a comprehensive study, as was done here, every 3 to 5 years, but that's a comprehensive study. As far as the frequency of adjustments, it's generally customers would prefer more regular, smaller adjustments than less frequent, significant adjustments. So the 3 to 5 years kind of helps you understand kind of where the rate increase, what the objectives are. But that does, I think that the best practice would be to do annual adjustments rather than, not doing anything for, say, 3 to 5 years and then having a significant sort of adjustment and then waiting and that kind of practice. So just from customers' feedback, the sort of more frequent, less significant is preferred in virtually every community I work in. There are some exceptions that say, wait until you need, the moment you need it, and if that's a 30% increase, then so be it. But most communities would rather see that 30% broken into, say, 3, just making up a number, 10%, 9% adjustments.
Okay.
And I think an appropriate time to be that would be this in concourse with our discussions of the budget. That would be very acceptable because you're talking dollars and cents, and we can look into that, and it should be yearly. Because that point's well taken. This percent increase, while not everybody gets an increase, especially if you use less than 12,000 gallons a month, you will actually see a decrease. Maybe this could be 2% instead of 9%.
I have a question for Bob. Bob,
Yes.
so moving forward, can you're looking at these numbers probably with Harry constantly. So looking next summer, is this the type of thing that you've in the past annually brought to administration to bring to us, or is it there's been so many other priorities? Again, who's going to bring this to council
Well, in years past, it's kind of always been up to the staff to inform council of, and it's usually during the budget process of, you know, what the situation is and what is needed. You know, a good example of this is, I know I just, as many of you may have, just received your last Atmos Energy bill. And in mine, I had a little insert in there letting me know that they were going before the PUC for a slight rate adjustment. And it seems like our other utilities do a better job about doing this on a more frequent basis than what we do. And I mean, as a result, in looking over the information, the increase didn't seem like too much to me, and so I really didn't give it a second thought.
Sure.
But normally, like I say, staff watches the numbers, and when it's prudent, we brought the issue before council and for their discussion to see what their opinion was on raising rates. It's not an easy decision to make by any means, especially when you might let it go for 3,
When it's
5
9%
years.
for 3 years, right? So,
Yeah.
again, so I think this council, I mean, there'll be a few members that are changing, but for the most part, they'll be fresh in their memory. You'll be coming before them, hopefully, in July or August to revisit this conversation.
Sure.
Okay. There you go.
And I liked your idea too, Councilman Ekstrom, of maybe the city pursuing ideas and how maybe we could be a little bit more green in our practice of using water and being a little more efficient. And I don't know if that would be in your realm or maybe something that we need to discuss as staff in general. That might be a prudent way to be a little bit more responsible with our taxpayer money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds of efficiencies. There's some efficiencies that could be done in the parks to cut back on their consumption. Whether it's, it might require some infrastructure investment in, you know, the sprinkler systems being automated and stuff so that they're easily controlled and that they can be adjusted quite easily. And so even to the point where, yeah, you get you know, during the summertime, we get some heavy thunderstorms that it's as easy as going to a cell phone or a tablet to turn sprinkler systems on and off and, you know, save water that way.
It's probably what a lot of communities are doing. We're very, very lucky here to have the water availability that a lot of places don't have.
Yeah,
So we don't pay as close attention to it that we should.
Right, they're really driven by it because a lot of those communities are resource water strapped, and the water that they do get comes at a very high price.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of you at some point have been driving somewhere, scratching your head, watching the sprinklers on
Every one of
in a
us.
park during a downpour. And you
As we
just
got our
go,
windshield wipers on.
Or just right after 5 o'clock when the rain stops.
Yeah, the sprinklers come on, sure.
So I think we're all comfortable with this,
Yes.
right? We move forward?
Yeah.
I think we should ask that you come to council in July with, we'll have that discussion.
With
Fair
projected
enough.
numbers based on what
Because
we've
you can come up with your cost. And just aside from that, they can control, if you've ever been to the water plant, I'm impressed with that water plant, by the way, gotta tell you. Go out there and they can see every valve in town, and you can run it from there. Yep.
Not quite that way,
Not
but
quite.
pretty close. I
Oh,
mean,
come on, make it
You can
easy,
see all
Bob.
the infrastructure, sure.
Yeah, it's
As far as the
great.
pumping
It's
stations
great.
and tanks.
Complicating things here.
Mr. Meisner.
My question is, we talk about where the third whereas or fourth whereas, third whereas talking about the effective date of April 1. And then section 3 only applies specifically to monthly billing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I can clarify that. The monthly billing will start with the old rate from January,
Right.
but the new rate will be effective in April 1st.
Okay.
Because of the cycle, the way we are billing, we have to start the billing, monthly billing in January. But it will continue the old rates until April 1st.
Do we have any kind of a media plan?
Yes, we are going to put a flyer into water bills. We are going to try to go to the radio and let people know. And we are walking in, we are also discussing with them, that telling them that the monthly bill will be effective January 1st.
Do we have a little flyout at the counter up there or anything?
We are going to do that after this approval.
Will also be social media and on our website as well, and e-blasts.
Yes, we will do all this.
Did you have something, Mr. Gill?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then, we've had a motion and a second. Any more discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Ekstrom?
Aye.
Mr. Gill?
Aye.
Mr. Jaquez?
Aye.
Mr. Meisner?
Aye.
Ms. Schumacher?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Weed?
Aye.
Okay, we are then adjourned.